Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
It started with silence, not the earned, comfortable quiet of two people who know each other's rhythms, the Sunday afternoon kind, where one of you folds laundry while the other reads the paper, and the only sound is the dryer clicking. This silence had edges. It hummed behind her polite answers and settled into the corners of the house like dust you only notice when the sun hits it. Emily used to narrate life. She'd come home with stories from I-93, how some guy cut her off, how the Waze route saved 10 minutes, how the Dunkin' line was out the door, so she grabbed a flat white at Starbucks instead. She'd gossip about her co-worker's divorce, rant about the Ho email reminding us to pull in trash bins by 7 p.m., laugh at the teacher in her favorite podcast who said New Englanders don't say goodbye, they just stop talking. It wasn't profound, it was texture. By late October, the texture had thinned to thread. On a Tuesday, she came home later than usual, not enough to be suspicious. 8:15 instead of 7:30, but off. She dropped her tote on the counter, muttered traffic, and took the stairs 2 at a time. No kiss, no how was your day. A faint cologne I didn't wear trailed behind her. Something expensive and sharp that didn't match our life of Costco paper towels and Trader Joe's frozen dinners. I wanted to ask. I didn't. The next morning, her iPhone wasn't on the charger. Emily worshipped 100%. She bragged about never dipping under 80. Closed apps compulsively. Killed Bluetooth to save battery. That morning, the phone was face down, dark, traveling from nightstand to bag in one smooth motion. When I asked if she wanted coffee, she smiled too fast and said she'd grab something on the way. She hates drive-through coffee, she says. It tastes like burned pennies. Little things. Always little things. They accumulated like parking tickets, individually annoying, collectively alarming. Her Apple Watch started dinging at 10 p.m. with a text she'd glance at and flip over. Our shared grocery list in any list stopped updating. She bought almond milk, but the list still said we needed it. The calendar events she created for us: dinner with Brooks, Parents' Day at Norris went missing, then reappeared, then vanished again. Glitch, she said, tapping her screen with irritation. iCloud is stupid. The passcode on her phone changed. I hadn't asked for it in years. We never made a thing about it. But the way she tilted the screen away from me when a notification popped up like a stranger on the T protecting their PIN made the gesture feel like a door closing that I hadn't realized was open. And then there were the receipts. Emily never cared about paper trails. She'd crumple CVS tape into our center console like tissue. On a Saturday, cleaning out the car before winter, I found a tidy fold from Trattoria Lucia in the North End. 2 entrees, 2 glasses of Barbera. Friday, 9:12 p.m. The same Friday she'd texted you, take out at the office. Save me some of your pad thai. I remember because I ate alone, watching a Bruins game I didn't care about. I didn't confront her. Confrontation is loud. It gives the other person something to push against, a shape to fight. If I went loud, Emily would go quiet. She'd cry, or laugh, or tilt her head and say I was being dramatic. She's good at winning arguments by refusing to have them. So I did something else. I studied. It started with notes on my phone. Times she left. Times she returned. Outfits. Perfume. The gap between words and reality. Then a pocket moleskin, because typing felt like leaving fingerprints. Wed 7:02 a.m. New perfume. No charger. Yoga bag untouched. Friday 6:48 p.m. Says team drinks returns 11:06. Hair curled. Smells like cedar. I took photos of the little things. 2 wine glasses in the sink when I hadn't had wine. A second co-tread. Fitted she never wore to the office, but suddenly favored for yoga. The S-Pass statement showing tolls at 9:34 p.m. Heading south when she said she was stuck in Cambridge. I started paying attention to mileage on her Tiguan. A 6-mile commute doesn't add 32 miles on a Wednesday. Find my off. Battery saver, she said with a shrug. She hates battery saver, it messes with her steps. One afternoon, an Amazon package arrived addressed to Emily at her up's pickup locker in Somerville. She'd never used a locker. When I asked, she said work was crazy and the porch pirates were getting bold. Our street has ring cameras, like Christmas lights. Porch pirates here are the Ho president's favorite ghost story. I noticed her ring tan line fading. I noticed the new gym leggings tags still in the trash when she hadn't worn the old ones out. I noticed the Peloton going cold, while she insisted she was closing rings every night. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was control. An inventory of reality. And with each detail logged, my pulse slowed, as if my body understood before my mind did. I wasn't crazy. I was awake. The night clarity arrived. I was parked on a side street off Newbury, heater ticking, hands flat on the wheel. Emily had said co-worker drinks at the seaport. She arrived not with her work tote, but with the small black clutch she uses only when she wants to feel like a different person. 15 minutes later, he came into frame, tall, trim suit that didn't come from a mall, the kind of confidence that reads as cologne. He kissed her before they sat, not a hello, a kiss. Her laugh lighter, younger, private bloomed in the glass as they slid into a banquette. I took 3 photos, not to post, not to send, to keep myself inside the truth when it tried, inevitably, to slip. I drove home alone, past our street, parked 2 blocks away, under a maple shedding the last cold leaves of fall. I watched my breath in the cold, and thought about the word married like it was someone else's surname. Going inside felt like stepping into poison. I slept in the car. I woke up to my phone buzzing with a Slack ping, and an reminder about the neighborhood holiday wreaths. At 6:12 a.m., my windshield fogged. I wrote, saw them, kiss, Newberry, clutch, then, actress. Because that's who she was now. My wife played my wife in front of me, while someone else watched her show after hours. And I wasn't in the audience anymore. It found the fly loft, the ropes, the black tape marks on the floor. Once you see the strings, you can't unsee them. The next morning, Emily moved through the kitchen, choreographing espresso pod, oat milk, her hand smoothing the same strand of hair behind her ear. When she leaned in to kiss me, I felt nothing. Not anger, not grief. A clean, white emptiness where devotion used to live. She called me babe. I answered like a co-worker. At work, my manager asked if I could pick up a migration ticket and I said yes, because the migration ticket didn't lie to me. At lunch, I found myself Googling Massachusetts separation checklist and then erased the history because I wasn't ready to let the internet know yet. That night, she said she was taking a restorative class at Down Under Yoga. I said nice, and sliced limeys I didn't want. When she left, I called the studio and asked if they had space for the 7 p.m. class. The woman said they didn't run a 7 p.m. restorative on Thursdays, but they'd love to see me for a 6 p.m. vinyasa. I thanked her and pressed the phone to my chest until my hand hurt. I was done being surprised. I opened a new manila folder and labeled it to on the nose to be a healthy ledger. In went the receipts. In went the years past printout. In went a screenshot of our shared calendar with a deleted block I recovered from mail notifications. Beacon 19 to 8:15. Beacon 19 is a wine bar. We celebrated an anniversary there once, the 3rd one, when we still believed anniversaries invented themselves. When Emily returned, she smelled like cedar again, the same sharp cologne clinging to the wool of her scarf. She hung it on the chair back and left the room. I brought the scarf to my nose, like an insane person, and inhaled the scent of a man I could pick out of a crowd by smell alone. The thought should have set me on fire. Instead, it calcified something. I set the scarf down, opened the dishwasher, and rearranged the plates so they wouldn't chip. It was stupid, but it was mine. Later, in bed, she scrolled quietly, the light blue wash brightening her face in pulses. You okay? She asked without looking. Yeah, I said. You? She nodded, smiled nothing into the phone, and rolled away, phone tucked under her pillow and diary in a middle school movie. I stared at the ceiling fan and counted the small clicks at the end of each rotation. The ceiling fan told the truth every time it turned. It was not sophisticated. It was reliable. By the end of the week, the house felt rearranged by a hand I couldn't see. Her favorite cardigan vanished from the foyer hooks. A second toothbrush appeared in the downstairs half bath, the guest bath we never used, and then disappeared again. The framed photo from Acadia us on the cliffs, wind beating our jackets, migrated from the hallway to a closet shelf, as if the wall had grown allergic. We were still married. There were still bills with both our names, to toothbrushes in one cup. But there's a point where the shape of a thing stays and the thing itself leaves. I could feel that point pass through me like weather. I wrote it down. After Newbury, after the kiss, everything changed. Not between us on the surface. Emily and I still performed husband and wife like we were paid actors, but inside me, something called. I stopped asking questions. I stopped waiting for answers. Instead, I observed. Her lies were sloppy once you stopped believing them. A leadership retreat in Vermont that required packing her red dress and a pair of heels. A networking dinner at Legal Seafoods when her pass pinged south of Providence. I didn't need to guess anymore. I had data. I kept it all. The folder in my desk drawer ledger grew thick. Receipts from restaurants in neighborhoods she had no reason to be in. Hotel invoices addressed to her with double occupancy charges. Lyft rides she forgot to delete from her email. A lingerie bag from Nordstrom tucked deep in her closet. Tags gone, but not the receipt. I catalogued every detail, time, date, description, like an autopsy, because that's what it was, the dissection of something already dead. One night, she told me she had a corporate offsite. 3 days. Phones limited. It'll be boring, she said, tossing her sneakers into a suitcase already half full of dresses. She kissed me, lips cold, eyes bright like a child lying about sneaking candy. I didn't argue. I carried her bag to the trunk, told her to drive safe, watched her taillights disappear. Then I picked up my own bag. Because I'd already called the hotel, already confirmed there was no corporate block, no retreat, already booked myself a room at a roadside motel 2 miles away. At 11:14 p.m., her car appeared. She didn't pull into the hotel lot. She turned into a boutique guest house next door. He was already waiting. The man from Newbury. Same sharp suit, same confidence. He placed his hand on her back as they disappeared behind a gate labeled Suite 3. I wrote it down. 11:14 p.m. Guest house, Unit 3. With him. For 2 days, I watched. Morning, breakfast at the cafe on the corner. Her laughing over eggs she never ate at home. Afternoon, a walk in the park. Her scarf trailing as he reached for her hand. Evening, wine at the same guest house. Curtains drawn too late to hide their silhouettes. I didn't storm across the street. I didn't kick in doors. I sat in my car, pen scratching, documenting. Proof was no longer for her, it was for me. To know I hadn't imagined it. To know betrayal had shape and color and timestamps. And strangely, I wasn't angry. Anger had burned out months ago. What I felt was clarity. Emily wasn't afraid of losing me. She believed she already had. When she came home 3 days later, suitcase in hand, she was glowing. She kissed my cheek, unpacked her bag, hummed while folding clothes that hadn't seen a conference room. I smiled back, because pretending was easier than giving her the satisfaction of knowing I knew. That night, I pulled moving boxes from the garage. Phase 1 had begun. I rented a 1-bedroom apartment under a different name. Nothing special, beige carpet, water stains on the ceiling but mine. I opened a new bank account, rerouted mail to a digital address in another state, bought a prepaid phone and saved every important contact to it. Phase 2 was quieter. I moved slowly, replacing what I took with decoys. I carried out my best suits and replaced them with old jackets I never wore. I swapped shoes 1 pair at a time. My bookshelves stayed full, but the volumes I cared about vanished box by box. She didn't notice. Of course she didn't. She was too busy lying. The final confirmation came one night when she thought I was in the garage. I heard her on the phone, whispering, "Hey, still here, but not for long. Don't worry, he'll fade out eventually." Fade out. That's what I was to her. A candle waiting to burn itself down. But she was wrong. I wasn't going to fade. I was going to disappear. And when I did, the silence I left behind would choke her harder than any confrontation. I closed my notebook that night, labeled the page, and for the first time in months smiled. Because betrayal doesn't end in heartbreak, it ends in strategy. Friday night, the house was set like a stage. Candles lit, risotto simmering, a bottle of wine breathing on the table. To Emily, it must have looked like a reconciliation dinner. To me, it was the last act. She came downstairs in a green dress I hadn't seen in years, the one she wore the night we signed the mortgage. Her hair curled, perfume heavy. She smiled nervously, as if charm could still buy her time. We ate in silence, forks clinking against porcelain. She tried small talk traffic, yoga, a podcast episode. I nodded, offered one-word replies. My watch ticked towards 7:30. When the doorbell rang, she frowned. "Are we expecting someone?" I didn't answer. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. Her parents stepped inside first, then her sister, then two of our closest friends. Each carried a sealed envelope I had delivered earlier that week. Emily froze, fork midair. What is this?" No one spoke at first. They sat, opened the envelopes, and began reading. Photos spilled onto the table, screenshots of texts, receipts from restaurants, hotel invoices, Espace records, proof stacked on proof. Her mother covered her mouth. Her father's jaw locked tight. Her sister whispered. Emily in disbelief. Emily's face drained. She turned to me, wide-eyed. "Daniel, this is insane. You're twisting. Stop." My voice was steady, flat, the kind of voice you use in court, not in marriage. "I'm not here to argue. I'm here to tell the truth. The truth you thought I'd never find. The truth they deserve to know." I slid a final envelope across the table. "Divorce papers, already signed. This marriage is over. You don't own me anymore." For once, Emily had nothing. No excuse, no tears, no laughter to mask it, just silence. And that silence filled the room like smoke. 20 minutes later, she stormed out, purse left behind, heels clattering on hardwood. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the wine glasses. Her family sat stunned. My friends shifted awkwardly. I poured myself another glass of wine, steady as stone. Because this wasn't revenge. This was release. The weeks that followed were quiet. My new apartment smelled of fresh paint and take-out cartons. But it was mine. No perfume in the closet. No lies humming through locked doors. Emily texted, then called, then showed up at the door once. Her eyes were smaller, her voice desperate. She begged for 5 minutes, for a chance to explain. I let her finish her speech. Then I said the only sentence that mattered. "You taught me the value of silence. Now that's all I have for you." I closed the door. For good. Betrayal doesn't explode. It doesn't shout. It whispers through receipts, through cologne, through laughter on a phone call it weren't meant to hear. Emily thought she erased me with lies, but I erased her with peace. Walking away wasn't weakness. It was the only strength that mattered. I didn't just lose a wife. I found myself. And in the end, that was the sharpest form of justice. Thanks for staying with this story to the end. If you made it here, you know the truth. Sometimes silence is the loudest revenge. Subscribe to End Story's new raw confessions drop every single day. And there's already a library waiting for you to explore. Don't miss what's next.